Thank you for joining us to learn more about community choice aggregation and what it means for the Saratoga Springs community. I'm Laura Falk and I co-chair Sustainable Saratoga's Climate and Energy Committee. We're happy to have Tina Carton, Administrator of Parks, Open Lands, Historic Preservation, and Sustainability for the City of Saratoga Springs, lead the webinar. After Tina's presentation, there will be a Q&A session for participants. Tina, please go ahead and start.
Hi, so I'm Tina Carton. I'm with the City of Saratoga Springs, and I wanted to give an overview of Community Choice Aggregation, which is a program that is currently underway. We're getting it started in the Capital Region, and I wanted to familiarize everybody with the program because you'll probably be hearing about it more soon. So Community Choice Aggregation, there we go. You know, on the slide, I have the Capital District Community Energy, and everybody's wondering, well, what is this? Really, this is a volunteer group that was organized back in November of 2017. They're not a not-for-profit, it's just a volunteer group at this point. But they're volunteers from all throughout the Capital Region who were very interested in how do we bring clean energy to all of the residents in the area as well as small businesses. And how do we make a really large change in people's energy choices in a very simplified manner? So their mission really is organizing and advocating for the establishment of a regional community choice aggregation program and getting information to the municipalities in which they live. And they do have a website if you wanted to find out more about it. So what is community choice aggregation? Community choice aggregation is a bulk buying program that is offered by municipalities. Through state law, only municipalities are the ones that are able to bring it to the residents and small businesses. The main goals of community choice aggregation are to lower costs for consumers, to be able to offer residents and small business owners renewable energy, and also make more of a local control of the energy supply. Currently, your energy supply, unless you're with an ESCO, as somebody mentioned that they had a wind company supplying them energy, that's called an energy service corporation, an ESCO. Unless you have chosen one of these, you currently get your power default from National Grid. So to run a community choice aggregation program, we choose an administrator, and an administrator is the one that's going to be negotiating with an energy supplier for all the homes and small businesses. They go out to bid to get the energy price, and then they're going to be managing the program and all of the coordination that needs to occur with the utility. So the municipalities in this instance really have no responsibility in terms of the management of the program. Of course, we're going to be answering programs that you know, any program questions that you have that aren't, because I know they come in, the administrator will have a direct line, but also the municipalities generally do get questions. And this program is really exciting because each municipality, of the 13 municipalities that are now looking to move forward with this program, each municipality, one, gets to vote whether or not they want to participate. And then as a resident or a small business owner, you're opted in automatically to the program, but you can opt out at any time and there are no fees to do that. So it's a free program. You know, you don't have any fines, you don't have any contracts to be part of the program. So there are many different steps in community choice aggregation. Early on, the city chooses an administrator for the program. In this instance, we choose Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance, MEGA. The CCA administrator in the city then provide education on the program. And to really get the program underway, we need a minimum of 40,000 households. At this time, with the 13 municipalities that we already have participating in the program, we have roughly 90,000 households. Why that's important is the larger amount of people that you have participating in the program, the better the energy prices will be when you go out to the energy market. So the city passed a local law authorizing the formation of the CCA program. Actually, I I gotta switch this date. This is when we decided to work with Mega, but we have passed a local law authorizing us to form the CCA program. And at this point, the CCA administrator is close to being able to issue solicitations for bids from energy providers. The final steps in the program is the administrator then recommends to the city the most favorable provider that is going to meet the community choice aggregation needs. And then it is brought to City Council. City Council is going to be able to vote to participate in the program if they want to participate in the program, and approve the supplier that and the choices that Mega will bring. The administrator, as I said, handles all the state reporting requirements. The city staff doesn't have any extra burden on them in that instance. And residents and small business, as I said, can opt out at any time with no fees or penalties. It generally just takes 2 billing cycles to return to National Grid. So where could the energy come from for our CCA program? Community choice aggregation, the whole point of it is to be able to choose your energy supplier. And we're hoping that the city is looking to go for 100% renewable option. That's what the Capital Region Community Group wants. National Grid is going to still transmit and distribute the electricity to the customers. It does not disrupt your bill. It does not disrupt the service. The lines, all the transmission lines, that is still owned by National Grid. And National Grid, if there's a storm, they're still going to come and they're going to fix the service to your house. In New York State, we have what's called a decoupled energy system. So National Grid cannot be the owner of the supply and also, you know, of the electrical generation. So that is one of the reasons that this type of program is available in New York State. So the consumers get to receive the electricity from the chosen CCA provider. And then, as I said, the municipality has a choice of whether or not they want to participate. And then also the individual, as I will get into, also has a choice in how they want to participate. Currently, National Grid has about 32% of the energy is coming from fossil fuels. About 31% of it is nuclear, 30% of it is hydro, and 7% of it is from a mix of different types of renewables. As I said, the goal of the CCA program is that we would be able to provide 100% renewable clean energy. And New York State has ruled that this renewable energy has to come from New York State. So it's energy that's being generated in New York State. And as more of these programs come online, the goal is that renewable energy supply will increase in New York State and new generation distribution will come online. So the bill that you're going to get is staying the same. You're not going to be getting 2 utility bills. You'll only get 1 utility bill. The changes to that utility bill, the delivery service charge, this amount won't change. It's the same as it is now with National Grid. The change will be on your supply service. So now your supply service charge will come from the energy provider that is chosen through the Community Choice Aggregation Program. And that cost is the result of the bid. National Grid's still going to be responsible for the billing, the delivery, power outages, and maintenance. And customers are still eligible for any National Grid rebates on furnaces, electric vehicles, water heaters. So participating in this program doesn't exclude you from if your furnace goes, your hot water tank goes, and you need to purchase a new one, you still could get those types of incentives that are offered through National Grid. And the service charges are going to remain the same with National Grid. And if you wanted to look up all of the different service charges National Grid includes on your bill, you could find it on their website. The potential benefits of a CCA program is really, we're looking for creating opportunities for new renewable generation in New York State. And we're looking for providing renewable energy for all of the customers in the Capital Region and all the customers in Saratoga Springs. In the municipalities that are, of course, participating in the program. So when they go out to contract, the contract with the energy supplier is for a 2 to 3 year contract. And the price, unlike with National Grid right now, the price stays the same throughout the entire contract. It doesn't go up and down. It just remains the same. So that also provides a lot of certainty with the program. There's freedom of choice for the individual and for the city. So if the city decides to move forward with a renewable energy supply, and then there's also going to be what we call a brown power choice, which is really the traditional power mix that they'll be going out and soliciting. A customer, if the city chooses the renewable option and the brown power choice, it's a little bit less expensive, and the consumer really just wants economics is the only driving factor, they're able to opt down and pick that. If the city, for some reason, does pick the brown power option, the individual also is going to be able to opt up and then choose the 100% renewable option. So by aggregating demand, communities can support the future and have a really large impact, hopefully, on carbon emissions as more communities pick renewable energy sources. So some of the questions we get is, well, I already have rooftop solar, or I've selected a community solar program, which actually I'm in a community solar program. But joining a CCA doesn't prevent you from joining these types of programs or using your current on-site renewables. Even if your solar panel system's designed to cover 100% of your electricity needs, in certain times of the year, you still may have to buy electricity from the utility due to seasonality, electric consumption patterns, and more. Say you have a really large party, there are a lot of people at your house, you're using a lot more energy than you generally use, or in the winter when the sun's lower in the sky and maybe the community choice, the community solar or your rooftop solar is not generating the same amount of power for you. So community solar and on-site power paired with community choice aggregation make for a really powerful choice, because if you don't generate enough energy, renewable energy, through the community solar program or your rooftop, you can always get the rest of it made up from the renewable option through the community choice aggregation program. So currently there are a number of community choice aggregation programs running in New York State. The oldest community choice aggregation program is in Westchester. Currently Westchester has 27 municipalities who are participating, and around 110,000 households. There's also community choice aggregation programs in Hudson Valley, Southern Tier making up 25 municipalities, the Finger Lakes, Greene County, and Lackawanna. And you can see from the Westchester map, some of the communities in Westchester choose the green power option. Those are the communities in green. And some of them choose the more traditional brown power mix, and those are seen in brown. So who is currently making up the regional CCA? All of these 13 communities have passed a resolution to move forward with CCA. So really we have the group together at this point, and we're ready to move forward with the program. So Albany, Troy, Schenectady, Saratoga, Glens Falls, Waterville, they're all named here, and it's really exciting to be part of this large group of people all interested in the same goal. Currently, we're in the education phase and really trying to teach residents about this program. The administrator, Mega, has been going out and doing education. We've been talking about it in multiple city council meetings. As I said, the city actually decided to move forward and explore community choice aggregation with Mega in September of 2017. So there have been numerous city council meetings, but we all know that not everybody tunes into city council meetings. So we need to get out and get the word out about what this program could be. The next step really to move forward with the community choice aggregation program is to solicit the energy supply company bids. And then the municipality is going to decide whether or not they want to accept the bid, which energy source to select, and then they'll sign the contract. When the energy bid come in, there's only a 48-hour window to decide if you want to move forward or not, because the energy bids with the energy market, it's very dynamic market, and that's the time period that they allow for the selection process. So if you're interested in a renewable power option, you know, City Council kind of needs to know about that prior to, you know, prior to the bids coming in. Or if you're really interested in getting the cheapest option possible, you know, you need to communicate that to City Council as well. So the next step after the City Council would decide their decision, if they decide to move forward, letters are sent to all the residents and businesses telling them that they've just joined this program. And then residents at that point can opt out and decide not to participate, or if they don't like the energy that's being supplied to them and they want to still participate in the program, they're able to select which supplier that they want to move forward with. Then the CCA program begins, and hopefully the Capital District, the 13 communities, can move forward with affordable, cleaner energy. So some of the decisions the municipality has to make. So what do we want to be our energy default? So when they go out to contract, when they go out to bid to get the energy prices, they're going to go out for 3 separate options. They're going to go out for a standard grid option. This generally is the cheapest option, and it has to comply with all the clean energy standards. So we're not going to end up with browner power than we have now. We'll end up with power very similar to National Grid's current energy mix. The next choice that they're going to get the energy cost for is 100% renewable. This is generally a higher option, a higher price than the standard grid mix. And then the last one is a mix of renewable and standard grid mix. So it's more renewables than National Grid's currently supplying, but not 100%. So City Council is the one who will be able to meet and choose one of these as the default for all the residents. But as I said, you'd be able to opt up or opt down. So how do they select one of the 3? When they go out to energy bid, one of the selection points is you have a price to beat, and the price to beat is a mass market 12-month average of what everyone in this region is paying for electricity. So we're in load zone F, which is highlighted, and that is the average market price by the end of March for the last year. So the energy cost has to beat that price. If it doesn't, if the renewable option can't beat that price, then the renewable, that's when that 3rd option comes into play, and then they would be presenting more of a mix of the traditional mix with some renewables in it, and those would be presented to City Council. So community choice aggregation, it's an opportunity for the majority of Saratoga Springs residents to be offered renewable energy from a really kind of trusted source. Immediately we meet scale. Aggregation delivers choice, but it also delivers a scale of residents and small businesses going renewable that we've never seen before. You're going to have the same level of service and reliability with National Grid. And the choice, if we go renewable, helps support additional renewable energy generation in New York State, hoping to reduce global warming. And this is like a CCA 1.0. That's kind of what a lot of people have been talking about it as. It's the introduction of community choice aggregation into our community. Some programs, as they move forward and as they age, they're able to put some of the savings that we may be able to get into some other types of programming and offerings for residents, such as maybe additional incentives for the furnace replacement or weatherization work. So this is really a kind of call to try to join our neighbors and, you know, move forward and try to get with their goal, the Capital District Community Energy's goal, which is 100% renewable. And this picture was taken, I'm part of the volunteer group, and we went down and went on a tour of Brookfield Renewable Site, which is a hydroelectric dam at the Cohoes Falls. I'm not sure if anybody has ever visited there themselves, but it's a really exciting facility. It was actually built by GE. A lot of the pipes, they were welded. It was kind of constructed between 1910 and 1914. And so far, Burkefield has another project that was selected in one of the other community choice aggregation programs, and they still were able to beat National Grid's price, but they also are now getting paid more than National Grid pays them for their hydropower. And they said that that was really important for them because they do really have aging facilities, and that extra revenue helps them really stay in business. So that's kind of the end of my presentation, and I really would enjoy any questions that anyone had, or if you know, you were confused by anything, I can move forward, back forward in slides, but answer any questions anyone had.
Thank you, Tina. So to ask a question, you can either put a question into the chat box, or you can also, if you click on the participants icon at the bottom of your screen and then click on the raise hand icon, I will take you off of mute and call on you to ask a question. And it looks like we have a question from Jim. Let's see.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Great talk. Thank you for explaining that. It wasn't what I was expecting, but that's great because I learned a whole lot about how communities can band together and do this. Unfortunately, I live in Wilton. Well, for more reasons than one. So I wouldn't qualify for this. I am curious. My question comes to how were the communities or the municipalities selected? Was solicitation for the whole capital district handed out, or was this something because
it was really a grassroots effort. So Michelle, Commissioner Madigan in Saratoga Springs really was the first one who championed this, and I started through the Clean Energy Communities program, which the city also participates in. It's one of the 10 action items to try to move the, you know, one of the 10 action items that you could do. You know, they kind of identified 10 things that really make significant change in a community. So she was the first one in the city that kind of brought this forward. And then with a lot of the other communities, it's really a lot of volunteers who are out there, boots on the ground, you know, bringing things to their city councils, bringing things to their town supervisor, trying to speak, you know, at community meetings and get people interested. And that's how the other municipalities really kind of came on board. So there was no solicitation. I know there's a few other communities that have kind of had interest, but there are a number of other steps, and Mega outlines it very well. There's I'm going to be putting some new materials up on the city's website, but it'll have a lot of the steps in that, in those slides. And then that's the steps that you would need to take to move forward. If, you know, with the next solicitation, if we move forward and we have a 2-year bid, you know, maybe the next time that we go out, we can actually really increase.
Sure.
The same way Westchester has. It wasn't as many communities when it first started, but it's grown to be what it is.
You mentioned the 90,000 households. Don't the cities of Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Saratoga, Glens Falls have many more than that?
They do, but then they usually, with the math, with the program administrator, they remove a portion of them because always there's somebody who doesn't want to go on board.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so they remove a percentage that is the general percentage that doesn't participate.
Okay, and I know you'll get this from the woman whose family owns Uncommon Grounds, but is it strictly residential?
No, it's for small businesses as well, as long as they're not, you know, how they're different classes of commercial meters, as long as they're not a demand meter, you can participate. So the smaller businesses that don't have the, you know, the heavy usage can participate.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Crystal, I see you have a question, so I will unmute you.
Yes, thank you. I also live outside of the city limits, but I'm wondering if you know if there's a possibility of once the CCA supplier has been chosen, if someone like myself would be able to sign up with them as an individual, understanding that I wouldn't be part of the buying group, price-wise.
Yeah, unfortunately, the municipality has to participate in order for you to participate.
Oh, so they would not be available.
Yeah, it would not
outside
be available outside the 13 communities. But as I said, you know, we have Wilton and, you know, we have a couple towns here. So it's really, that's why I said it's kind of CCA 1.0. We're the
Yep.
first in the capital region. This is the first program that's being moved forward. But I think that there's still a lot of potential and a lot of interest from other municipalities. I was approached by somebody from Malta who wanted to participate, and you know, how can I get my city, you know, interested in moving forward with this? You know, what do I need to do? And Saratoga Springs, you know, signed with Mega to be interested in the program in September 2017. You know, here we are, it's going to be 3 years in September. So getting that interest and getting that group together, you know, if you kind of decide you want to do that, just doing education in your community and getting interest in your community. So when we move forward with another program, and there, Louise, there was somebody on this call that actually might have been able to answer the question, but it may be dependent on when they go out for the energy bid of whether or not any other community may be able to slip in time to do that.
Okay, and can you remind me, is there a timeline that you anticipated for completion of this?
There is, but COVID, I think, has changed.
Oh, yeah, that has changed a lot. Thank you. And if I could just do a shout out to the lady that's here from Uncommon Grounds. I think you said there was someone here from Uncommon Grounds listening in. If that's the case, I'd like to thank her. It's one of my favorite spots, and I'm so glad that she's just proactively being interested in this. So, thank you.
Yeah, I would have to agree. It's I think it's one of everybody's favorite spots in the Saratoga area.
All right. Thank you. And we have a question that came in through the chat from Dave. What's a typical delta between standard brown and green option costs? So we don't really know what that's going to be, but I'm going to go back a few slides because I didn't really touch on it. But in this slide at the bottom, this is the Hudson Valley Community Choice Aggregation Program. So they currently are supplied energy not through National Grid. Central Hudson is the utility in that region. So the standard supply rate, this is from their site. I didn't make this information up, so I'm trusting that this is correct, but this is what they published. So this, when they went out to bid, I guess the average Central Hudson supply rate was 0.06870. The 100% renewable option came in less than that. So you can see the difference is, you know, less than a penny. It's not even, it's 0.06361. So we're just talking about, you know, kind of a half a penny difference between, and it's still less between the supply rate that's the utility. But then you can see that the standard fixed rate is cheaper. So it was, you know, it's just slightly cheaper. So you never really know until they go out to the energy bid and with energy markets what that difference is going to be. But you know, that's one of the reasons they go out for the energy bid. But that's an example that I can show you from the state right now. I hope that helped answer the question. Thank you. And I see Jim put a comment into the chat that's an 8% reduction in supply cost, even though the number seems like a fraction.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions that anybody wants to either put into the chat or raise your hand to ask? Okay, Janine. Oh,
Yep.
for some reason, I'm having trouble unmuting you.
Oh,
There you go.
I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have really a million questions. I'm not sure that I can articulate them, but one of them might be, what is the connection between Laura's role for Sustainable Saratoga and your role, Tina? Are you both working to educate people to get human beings in our towns to put more pressure on the city council, or this is already close to asking?
Well, I can just, I mean, I can't speak anything for city council. I'm kind of the sustainability person for the city, so I'm providing education. I think the advocacy, I will let that over to Laura for the advocacy piece.
So Sustainable Saratoga, I am a volunteer with that organization. Wendy, who is on the call, is the executive director. But one of our core elements of our mission is to try to educate people about ways that they can live sustainably. And so we've been working with Tina and with the city to try to educate people as to what community choice aggregation is. And that's why we hosted today's webinar.
Yeah,
But sustainable.
I just really wanted to provide the information. And as I said, you know, it's really up to citizens to voice to their city council or to their, you know, town supervisor, whomever that may be, what their interests are and where their interests lay. So when the bid went out in the Southern Tier region, there were a number of communities who really were excited about this program simply because it lowered energy costs for their residents. And it's, you know, more of a depressed area, and that's what their main goal was. So, you know, I personally have my own personal beliefs, but, you know, in terms of my role with the city, it's to educate people about the program.
Yeah, and I'll just say with respect to Sustainable Saratoga, we have been advocating with the city. We are hoping that they will choose a green energy choice, one that is at least has more renewables in it than the current national grid default mix. We believe that is important, of course, for climate change reasons. So we have been advocating for that.
Well, I've had my own mix for quite a time. There's been an individual choice that people can make on their national grid bills for several years, right?
Correct. Yeah. So New York State does give all people choice. So one of the things that this does is there's been a lot of predatory ESCOs out there. You've probably heard about them. So there are those energy supply companies that you sign up with, and some of them, you know, offer teaser rates. Some of them, you know, say that there's going to be, you know, particular, you know, you sign up for wind power and it's this price, and then after 3 months it changes. Some of them you may no longer want to participate in, and they charge a fee for you to get away from them and, you know, to go back to national grid. So you are correct. New York State already gives people individual choice, but in terms of scale, you have, you know, a lot of individuals acting on their own, you know, acting on their own. But right away, because the way New York State set up this program is everyone is opted in until you opt out, that really creates a massive scale in terms of the energy selection. So
well, I understand that it would be better to have this, but it's not clear to me the path. It's not clear to me how, okay, you said we're supposed to let our city council know. It's just not clear to me the path of when and how this is going to happen?
Well, I would say because of the step that we are right now and the fact that all 13 municipalities have passed the resolution and really we're kind of primed to move forward with the program, I would say, you know, if you have an interest in the program, I will say if you already have an ESCO, you actually are not going to be able to participate in this program unless you leave the ESCO that you're with. So if you already have signed up for wind power, you've been happy all these years, that's not going to change. The only people who it will change for is the people who are currently getting supplied natural grid power. But, you know, in terms of timing, you know, if this is something that interests you, I think the time is now. If you have a relationship with someone from city council, or if you want to write all the commissioners and the mayor, but it would be the time to kind of express your opinion before the energy, because the next step really is for the energy bids to go out. I don't know the timing on that right now, but so, you know, in this time period, this is kind of the time to voice your opinion.
And is there a way to look up the ESCOs that are good and the ones that are not good?
I think the public, I have to Google that, but there used to be a site, the Public Service Commission may have that on their website. I think they might have something about, now you're going to make me look, about predatory lenders on their site. Oh, let me see.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are some ESCOs out there who are taking advantage of people with respect to the terms of their contract. So before you sign with anybody, it's good to double check and read the fine print.
And they have, you know, I'll just say, I guess you'd have to go to the Public Service Commission website, but there have been issues. There have been predatory issues with ESCOs statewide, but I don't know if they publish the ones that they've had issues with or not. I'm sure it's somewhere. But also, yep.
So I don't know, Mike. So I think just as I came on the call, I think Laura was saying that there's somebody else on the call who already has an ESCO.
Correct. I believe Jim has a wind supply company.
Ah, okay.
Oh, Laura, you're muted.
Okay, I think I had a question here. Let me lower my hand. So yeah, I have an ESCO with wind. I pay a surcharge for that, Janine, and so I'm paying more for than I would be if I got the mix that National Grid default supplies. Right. Okay, so I think the advantage here is, but because of the numbers, the bargaining position, the guaranteed income, would the provider would be willing to go for a lower rate because, you know, power of numbers, the collective bargaining power. So my other question though is more of a technical one. Let's say we go to 100% renewable. Am I to believe that would be, of course, there's no power when the sun is solar power when the sun's not shining, then there's none when the wind doesn't blow from wind power. Hydro seems to be like it's the only thing that's pretty not so intermittent with strategic.
Well, you know, it's the same as what would happen with a rooftop solar. Really, what you're buying is the amount of energy the community is using is 100% renewable. You are correct. Hydro is, you know, more even. It does have some seasonality.
Sure.
But it's the same way the credits work, though. They're buying credits. You're not actually buying those electrons that are coming out of the one thing. You're getting the you're getting the credits on the market for that power.
So is this, my follow-up would be then, is these types of programs, are they demonstrating more need for solar and wind capacity in the state, since they have to be produced in the state in order to be fed back in?
With the clean energy standard that the state already has, that would be the hope. So right now, say Brookfield down the Cohoes ended up bidding and they said, you know, you're going to have this many electrons that would be able to serve all 90,000 households. That's actually going to then be depleted from National Grid's current mix, and National Grid's going to have to make that up somewhere else. So as more of these programs come online, at one point, that would then hopefully spur and more generation, because they're going to have to backfill. And all the meanwhile, the clean energy standard in New York State, they're just increasing, you know, the clean energy mix into what is required to be offered. So, you know, as those two things happen, you know, we're really hoping. Some people, some programs I know in California, they've been what they call single off-takers. So there'll be a giant solar farm built just for that community, and that community is the only one that's, you know, they're getting all the credits for that solar farm. But generally those are long-term contracts, like 20-year contracts, because to be able to finance and put in that solar farm, there's a lot, you know, to go out to the market, they need large financing, and financiers want a long-term commitment, a long-term contract. So
Yeah.
This is kind of a sweet spot for us, because it would be a shorter contract. So, you know, we never know what's going to be happening. And then we can readjust, you know, when we go back out in a couple of years.
I see. I can just, being part of the regulatory and the regulatory process for wind farm, getting wind farm approval, solar farm approval, I can foresee where down the road, as more CCAs come online, the resistance to having a wind farm go up to supply Westchester County downstate with the wind power that they don't have there. They don't have to look at the wind. You know, there's a lot of environmentalist backlash against renewable projects when they're NIMBY, you know, when they become NIMBY. And so I'm constantly having to demonstrate the degree of visual impact of a wind farm on a community, and reading newspapers, the people don't see the benefit directly there. It sounds interesting what you've mentioned about a solar farm going up in or around the community to supply that one community, but unfortunately, the windy places are not the ones that are, you know, going to benefit from the wind power all the time. So
yeah, no, Saratoga is a really bad place for wind.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the area around the north and west of the Adirondack Park is fantastic.
Yeah,
but
it's fantastic.
But you run into snowmobilers who don't want to look at them, and they're pretty powerful out there. So,
yeah, I used to ski a lot at Jiminy Peak when I first started.
huh?
And you ski right by the you know, the turbine, and I don't know, it never bothered me, but.
No. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you. And I see that Dave has a question. So I'm going to unmute you, Dave. Go ahead.
Hello. Mine was back process related. If I understood, you said that the ESCO gets the surveys and gets the bids, and if the brown or green options are not as cheap as the standard, the council will have to make a decision. So the council will look at it all and come up with a mix to their liking, and then
No, the mix is gonna, my understanding of how that process works is, say the renewable option comes in higher than the price to beat, then they come up with that mix, and that mix is put together as part of the energy bid Mega will be reviewing all of those and then selecting the ones, they look at the financials of the company, they look at all the different details and specs of the company, and then they present that information to City Council.
Okay, so the administrator, the Mega will make that decision on offering a mix. The council will decide to accept it or not. Is that something the council would put out to the public for a vote, referendum, input? Are they just going to decide?
That's why I said it's 48 hours. So, that's why it's of interest to if you're interested in this type of program, really communicating that to City Council prior to the energy bid solicitation is important, because once that energy bid solicitation results come back in from Mega to the city, there's only 48 hours for the City Council to then convene and also vote on how it wants to move forward. So the council members all they need to know what they want to do before that time period.
So Mega will offer one option to the council.
I believe
they'll assess the green, brown, and standard, and they'll put together a package and offer one or several.
I'm not sure if it's one or maybe two, but they narrow it down to just and I'd have to get back to you on whether or not it's one or two options per brown, per green, per mix.
Right. Yeah, that'd be great to know ahead of time if you could get what the Mega is what packages they have, so I could understand them and then engage the council or lobby for it.
Yeah, that's the point where I don't think we'll know.
Yeah.
I think because of that time frame, it's just so tight. I don't know. I don't know how much public involvement really, can take place. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be trying to be as transparent as possible, but it's difficult having a 48-hour window.
Yeah. So we would generically lobby the council ahead of time for more green options.
I'll let Laura speak to that one.
Yes. Yeah, I think it would be great for them to hear from anybody who's interested now in advocating for them to choose a green energy option. I think contact them now. That would be great. We are going to try to, stay in touch and understand when Mega gives all of the options out to the different municipalities so that we can have some input within that 48-hour window, but it is a very small time frame. So I think that speaking out now is a good idea for green energy. Yeah, Janine, did you have a question?
Didn't you say didn't Tina say in the presentation that no matter what the choice is, that individuals can opt up or down?
Correct. So if the city moves forward and selects the standard energy choice, the more brown choice, individuals still will have the ability to opt up.
Thank you.
All right, are there any more questions?
A general indication of the timing on this? I probably missed it, but when do you think?
I can't say right now with COVID going on. Let's see how long this lasts, because it's difficult to do a lot of things right now, especially something that it has such broad community. But I believe there may want to listen to the next city council meeting. There may be an announcement about it.
Good.
Yeah, there was a schedule, but I think it got, so many, as with so many things that may be changing. So, all right, are there any other questions? Janine?
So Laura, should we assume that the active members of Sustainable Saratoga have already communicated with the city council about this issue?
Yes. In fact, Sustainable Saratoga made a formal statement to the council. And I believe it was one of the January city council meetings where we commended them for signing up for community choice aggregation and urged them to pass the local law to authorize it, and also asked them to prioritize and choose green energy options. So we did make a formal statement regarding that, and we're continuing to be in touch with them.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. It's almost 8 o'clock and I don't see any other questions. So, Jim, it looks like one more question came in through the chat. I'll unmute you if you want to.
Oh, well, I was just going to suggest a position paper. I know that like a lot of the other committees have put position papers on the website saying why the city council should support this. And also written, I know Jeff Borneman's always writing letters to the editor on why this should happen, or, you know, so I think there's, yeah, I didn't happen to catch the city council meeting, and I don't know if I could go back through the archives, but it would be nice to have a position paper on the website saying why Sustainable Saratoga is behind the CCA.
Okay. I think that's a good suggestion. Are there any other questions before we end? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and I hope you found this helpful. Stay tuned for updates on Sustainable Saratoga's website and the Facebook page, and we'll be having more virtual events in the future since we cannot hold in-person events right now. So thank you all very much, and stay well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina.